Hello everyone! As you can tell by the title of this video, today I'm going to be sharing with you my top 25 video games of all time. Now, this isn't meant to be an announcement video or anything super formal. As many of you know, every year I go through my top 100 fiction of all time, and we go through the drops, the rises, the new additions, and all that sort of thing, and we've made it a yearly tradition where we go through my top 100 fiction of all time. For anyone who doesn't know, just a bit of background info. And on that list, that has comprised of my top 25 games of all time and more. And on my backlogged account, which you can see on screen right now, and is linked in the description, I have my formal list of my top 25 games of all time. However, I know a lot of people aren't necessarily aware of that, and I just wanted to go through this in case anyone was curious, or maybe you wanted some white noise or something, I don't know. But I wanted to talk about my favorite games of all time because, I don't know, I love talking about games. So, this is actually currently, we are now in a list in Backlogged, which is entitled, My Favorite Video Games and Visual Novels of All Time. There are 65 here. Now, these are everything that I would consider favorites as of May of 2025. It has been a couple of months since then, by the time this video goes up, so just to let you guys know, this is already outdated. How is this outdated? The order is a little bit different. I do tend to be quite compulsive with changing my rankings around, but yeah, it's a little bit different. I will not tell you how it's different yet, except for some vague things, which I'll get into in a second, because I like to build it up for next year, 2026, where we'll be going through the top 100 of 2026, and I'll tell you the changes then. Let's just get into it. I'm going to quickly show you guys my favorite games, adding a couple of anecdotes, but I'm not going to talk about anything until we get to number 25, generally. So just a couple of things. So there are new additions that get added throughout the year to this list, but I don't rank it because, again, I want to build up for when I properly rank them when we do the top 100 lists. So, just really quickly, since I finished my list, there has been a new addition, a new favorite. As I'm sure many of you know, Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is a new favorite. It's a strong favorite. I've made 3 videos about it. I've made a 4th, which will come out in a few weeks, in the next couple weeks. So yeah, it's no surprise. I gush about it on Twitter all the time. It's one of my favorite games ever. Where exactly is it? We don't know, because I've just added it to the list. It's right at the bottom here at number 64. It's higher than that. I just for anything that gets added throughout the year as a game, I just tag it onto the bottom of the list without placing it. So it'll be there. I just don't want to give away where exactly, but rest assured it's higher than 64. In addition to that, there are a couple of games that I'm going to play that I imagine will be included as well. So, one of them, which I'm currently playing, Metaphor ReFantazio, I think will make it to this list potentially. We'll see how it goes, but the start is very promising. In addition, I recently played Death Stranding, which I really, really liked. It isn't quite a favorite. I've decided to add it to a almost favorites list, but I did love it. In addition, I'm going to start Deltarune Chapter 3 and 4. And I think that has a good chance of making this as well. Metal Gear Solid games I might play in the future. Devil May Cry. Yeah, stuff like that. But to get into the actual list, I did add, this was not on the list prior when I was doing the top 100s, but I've added Knights of the Old Republic to the Sith Lords. I've just added it onto the bottom. The first bunch of titles here, they aren't necessarily like top favorites, but they're borderline honorable mentions, borderline favorites, so you can consider all of these up to about, I don't know, the first 9 or 10 entries to be light favorites, up until about Xenoblade Chronicles 3 or Super Paper Mario. Yeah, with the exception of Clair Obscur, which is higher than that. Again, I know these are great titles, these are great series. I'm not going to talk about them here because the video will be too long, but if you want to hear me talk about each of these, I have streams for multiple of these in my VOD channel, and I also talk about each of them in my top 100 streams, which are available on my second channel. So I'd advise you to check those out. So let's just slowly scroll through here. Lies of P, by the way, the DLC Overture, I'm going to be playing that pretty soon, and I'm really, really hyped for how it'll elevate the game for me. In addition, I'm currently really close to finishing Trails Through Daybreak. You can see plenty of the Trails entries are on here. Trails Through Daybreak, and that's going to be on this list as well. I'm playing that off stream. I'm not streaming the Trails series, but I really love that game. I think it's going to feature in some way here. But yeah, these are my favorites, slowly making our way up. I do think the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles has risen. That's another of the changes I've made. So yeah, getting into the top 30-ish. This Undertale entry is representative of both Undertale and Deltarune. I imagine that might change, or maybe it'll stay the same, or maybe they'll have separate entries. We'll see when I play it. But yeah, and now we get into the top 30 and the top 25. So the first one here is, as we lead up to it, here's some amazing classics. Metal Gear Solid 2. I had a whole stream series of that. That's one of my favorite games ever, as you can see. It's incredible, and we had a full stream series about it. Great playthrough, one of my favorite ones I've ever done. Check it out if you're interested. Pokemon Emerald, Elden Ring, including the DLC, Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, specifically the remaster, which came out last year. Fantastic remaster, love that game. Fantastic adventure. Persona 5 Royal, which I made a couple videos about. Sekiro, which I made a video about, which is one of the most beautiful games I've ever played in terms of gameplay and story. And Amori. Amori's number 25. That is 25 on my list. I really adore this game. I think it's absolutely fantastic. It's got a small cast, but every single character is so profound and deep and well written, with lots of interpretive elements to their dynamics, and the gameplay's fun, the environment's fun. I think it's very metaphorical in its presentation, and it has the ending to this game is one of the best I've ever played in my life. The last few hours of this game is pure storytelling excellence, and it tells its story very well through the medium of video games as well. Amori, I've loved this since I played this 4 years ago, I believe? 4 or 5 years ago, whenever it came out. I played it a couple months after it came out, and I will never stop gushing about it, though it is very sensitive in its subject matter, so a couple of trigger warnings apply to this. Next would be Yakuza 5. I have a full stream playthrough of this on my VOD channel. To me, I've kind of concluded that this is the most important Yakuza title. I think it's where the series really properly... The writing of the series properly became amazing. I think they started doing amazing payoff here. It is so bold with the different perspectives. Haruka's character becomes amazing in this game, which I've been waiting for ages. The side characters all have distinct and defined roles. I could gush about this game forever. I think the gameplay's quite fun. I love the tone and atmosphere. I've talked about this in my full series Yakuza game on my video on my main channel, so you can check that out, where I talk about this for a few minutes at great length. But yeah, this I think in terms of presentation, storytelling, game design, structure, philosophy, what it does for characters like Kiryu, Saejima, Haruka, the side cast like Park and Watase and Takasugi, Shinada's amazing. It's a phenomenal game. It's masterful, and it's one of the most important I've ever played, I think, and specifically the most important in the series. I think it's a turning point in the series. Next is Final Fantasy X. This is a sort of game that I really liked when I first played it, and basically every year since I played it, it's been, I don't know, 11 years or something since I first played it. Basically every year or two, I reflect on it, and I rewatch cutscenes, and I sometimes replay parts of it, and watch people's reaction to it, and man, I still don't think... This is a widely celebrated game, but I still actually in some ways feel like it's undervalued. I think this is as important to Final Fantasy as, for me, as 7. I think it's so unbelievably impressive. I think it's, as you can tell, I actually think this is better than Final Fantasy VII OG, which is over here. Though this is a bit outdated, just so you guys know. But yeah, I think it's a phenomenal game. So important, so unbelievably emotional, with a deceptively great cast. Spira is the best Final Fantasy setting for just how much it drags out of the premise and the idea of cyclical tragedies, how that applies to Tidus, how all the characters are entrenched in what Spira means and how they deal with the idea of grief and the the ephemeral nature of life. It's unbelievable. So yeah, this is without doubt one of my favorite games ever, and every year I think it climbs more and more and more, and I value it more and more. Final Fantasy X is unbelievable. Next, this is another game where I feel like it could continue to climb. Yakuza 6 is, to me, the most underrated game in the series, in the Yakuza series. The stuff this achieves, a deceptively incredible cast, the stuff it achieves with Hirose and Kurusu, and the idea of fatherhood, parenthood in general, and Big Lo and Jimmy, and Kiryu and Daigo and Haruka and Onomichi, and how that represents Kiryu's sort of emotional wanderlust, and the final scene at the end. It's just incredible stuff. There's some ways in which it flubs, there are some mistakes here and there, but overall, this is a work of art that, honestly, I feel bad putting this low because of how good it is. Maybe it's higher by this point, it has been a couple of months, like I said, but I do think this is one that it's a type of game that it doesn't stop growing on you. You just, the more you reflect on it, the more beautiful it is, the more lyrical it is, and just kind of like Metal Gear Solid 2, this is one of my favorite games to stream. It's incredible. The stream series for this game was unreal. Next up is Persona 3 FES. This is my favorite Persona. I think it has easily the most well-rounded and best cast, the most human characters with the most dynamic arcs, and the most the most interesting dynamics, the most rich dynamics between characters. The finale of it has torn my soul apart to hell and back. It's incredibly emotional, and there are characters in this game that I would do anything for. Yukari is my second favorite character in the Persona series. Aigis is probably my third favorite. Those two are unbelievable, but I love Makoto Yuki. He's my favorite, by far, favorite Persona protagonist. Akihiko, Junpei, Shinji, Ken. I do think Fuka is a bit of a... I think she's good, but I couldn't really connect to her. I think when I play Persona 3 Reload, that might change with a different voice actor. I just wasn't a huge fan of the performance. Yeah, it's just this unbelievable, excuse me, memento mori of a game about life and death and the absurdity of both and what it means to live and your lasting impact on the world and connections. And it's just it's this beautiful mosaic of a story. I do have some problems with it, but it is a masterpiece, and those problems pale in comparison to the ways in which it has touched me. I adore it, and I can't wait to see Persona 3 Reload. I'll be streaming that one day. Oh, also, this is kind of unrelated, but I will be streaming Red Dead Redemption 2 in the future, and I have a feeling that could make its way onto this list as well. Into the top 20, Like a Dragon Gaiden. Common theme with this list is Yakuza. So Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name, I would say that this is actually the most abstract, creative, symbolic work. It is a poetic piece that is incredibly metaphorical. If you want to know what I mean by that, you can check out the streams again. I talk about it in my Yakuza video on my main channel too, but TLDR is so many members of this cast, so many story beats are representations that reflect Kiryu and this point in his life. And that final scene is in the conversation for my favorite in the whole series. It is so unbelievably emotional, and I will never be over it. Yeah, this game, I am in awe at how perfect it is. It is so unbelievably good. The storytelling is what I primarily talk about with this stuff, but the gameplay of this is tons of fun too. It might be my favorite Yakuza game to play outside of maybe Infinite Wealth, and that's not including Lost Judgment. Phenomenal game. And right there next to it is Yakuza Like a Dragon. I think this is a character piece centered on Ichiban that celebrates art and stories in such a beautiful way and celebrates its own inception, and that it exists and pays tribute to the life-saving nature of stories and what they represent, and how that is reflected through its character, Ichiban, how he slays his dragons, and how that is ingrained in every element of the narrative. It's a creative masterwork to me. And that's not even speaking of the cast, who are phenomenal. Masami, Masato, Joe Sawashido, the party, who I think are good. They wouldn't become great until the next game, but they're good. And while this game is very rough around the edges in places, I think it's one of the most flawed Yakuza games. The way it speaks to me through how it presents its thematics is so special that it is in my upper echelon of games because of that reason, and I can't not put it there, despite its flaws, because the gameplay, I do love a turn-based game. I do have lots of fun with it. I think it's very fun, but it is very flawed in terms of gameplay. And there's a section throughout the middle of this game that is so goofy. But in a way that's kind of Yakuza. And could it be improved upon? Absolutely. Is it still a masterpiece? Absolutely. Next up, Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. This is another one I recently completed in the last couple of years. This is on stream as well, and it was legendary. The relationship between the boss and Naked Snake, the way this is this lament and anti-war piece that is told through the character work, but also through the gameplay in a really creative way. The sorrow, unbelievable. I love Ocelot and Snake's dynamic in this. I love the way it looks. It's so incredibly cinematic. And while Metal Gear Solid 2, I think, is more intelligent and mind-blowing and more of a really clever thematic piece, I feel like this game is a more emotional one. And that's why it kind of struck me in a way that Raiden, that while I'm so emotionally connected to Raiden and Snake and Metal Gear Solid 2, this just took it up another level. It is this beautiful mosaic of what it's trying to say, and a wonderful story. And man, for like 2 years, I've been wanting to play Metal Gear Solid 4. 2 years. I can't believe how foaming at the mouth I am for that game to be released on Steam. I can't stream it. I can't stream it. It doesn't work from the PS3. I know with the splitters, I know about everything, it doesn't work. But one day we'll get the port for it. We'll get Master Collection Volume 2, and when it does, believe me, I'll be streaming that as soon as I can. But Metal Gear Solid 3, and it's so great to play. It's one of the funnest games I've ever played. The boss fights in it are so creative and fun, and I just love how strategic it is and the little touches, and just it's the first Metal Gear Solid where I properly felt like I was kind of good at it, and it kind of shows my growth throughout the first couple of games. And I think the game's just really intuitive in terms of gameplay, while having one of the best stories I've seen in a game. Number 17, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, including both expansions, Blood and Wine and Hearts of Stone. What I've come to understand about The Witcher 3 is that the reason I love this is primarily because of the experience. While I love the characters within it, and I have thought for hours upon hours about Gontar O'Dim and the Bloody Baron, and Geralt, and Olgierd von Everec, and Sylvia Anna, and Regis, and all the Ciri, this wonderful cast. It's a fantastic, nuanced cast, full of such richness in the characterization. Despite that, what I take away from this is the experience of playing it. There is something to be said for the beauty of just going out on a hunt during a stormy night with the trees swaying, just you and Roche, and, gathering some herbs to prepare for the hunt, going inside a tavern in Novigrad to talk to someone and hear about the lore behind something that'll give you some hint as to progress the story, or on one of your side jobs, on one of your hunts. With the rain pelting down, and you leave the tavern, and the rain's coming down, and you have to go on this hunt and find this monster. There's something so atmospheric about it. The dark, stormy night feel of it is so comfy. And the regions. Velen is so different, but yet so rich and beautiful. in the way it tells its story through setting design from Novigrad. And then Skellige is this breath of fresh air. Then Toussaint, oh my god. Witcher 3 is in the conversation for the best video game setting. I don't think it would be my number one if I had to tell you my favorite video game setting, gun to my head, but it's absolutely top 5 in gaming material. And I have just lost myself for hours in this game, just wandering around, searching, immersing myself in its atmosphere. It is an experiential game. And that is what carries this for me. That is, like, everything is so well done. The characters are fantastic, the lore, the mythos, the history, the way it approaches its themes. But what I take away from it the most is the setting, and the immersion, and the atmosphere, and how I feel playing it, like I'm a part of its world, like I want to engross myself in this setting. It's incredible. It's incredible. And that's not the last time I'll say that about a game on this list. Also, speaking about The Witcher 3, I've made 5 videos on it, and each of them are about elements of this setting. So that should tell you what I love about it. But going into number 16, we have 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim. Still to this day, a criminally underplayed game, though I know it is kind of hard to get a hold of. It's not on PC, it's on PS4. It recently had a Switch release, which is good, but it's not super easy to grab hold of, so I get it. But man, if you have the means, if you have the ability, play this game. It is a love letter, just like, kind of like Yakuza Like a Dragon, but even more so to the nature of stories and narratives, and a celebration of art and stories, and how we are the sum of who we are, but how different experiences and different ways that stories can impact us can lead to us going through diverging paths. The way this comments upon stories, the way it celebrates stories and science fiction and anime and all these different tropes, it takes so many elements from Evangelion and general classic science fiction and other video games to give us, like, there's Terminator in here as well. It's crazy to give us this cohesive piece that is a celebration of all that it does while still holding its own identity. It's just incredible. And the way you theorize about this game, even if you aren't a big theory person, I've become more of a theory person in recent years, but when I played this 5-6 years ago, I was not a theory person, and yet I would play this game, I would open this game up, have a 3-hour session, and not progress in the story, just open up logs and try to theorize and put together the pieces of what this story was. Just a reading. That's it. I would take notes. I would take notes on my phone, I'd write stuff down, I'd just look at the game, I'd replay scenes, because this game encourages that. It's such a celebration of what's beautiful about stories. I have a video about this. It's not a very good video, it's just kind of it was just trying to get the word out, but nonetheless, man, this game is so good. And that's not even to say about the music, which is out of this world. It's one of the prettiest games I've ever played. And the characters are incredibly rich and efficient. It's just all around a masterpiece to me. Getting into the top 15, Nier Automata. This, I might actually be underselling this. This is another one where I'm like, is it a bit higher? If you combine it with Nier Replicant, they are higher than this. But Nier Automata, I'd put around here. Top 15. Another video I made another game I made a video on years and years ago. Just this beautiful story about the human condition and the pitfalls and beauty of that, and the eternal nature of connections and bonds, and what sentience really means, and what humanity really means, and how it uses video games to tell that story. It's incredibly quirky and kind of strange in a lot of ways, but I wouldn't have it any other way. Yoko Taro is a visionary, and this game deserves all the acclaim it's gotten over the past 8 years, near decade. It's absolutely one of my favorites, and a recent, semi-recent replay, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, or maybe it was more like 4 or 5, really made me realize after Nier Replicant's release just how special it was to me. I'll always hold it close to my heart, and I deeply, deeply love it. And I find it pretty fun to play too. I really love the way that it varies up combat, that the different routes tell its story, but more like it's the messages, it's the characters, it's the take-home points that are more than the sum of their parts for me. The setting's fantastic too, but This one is sort of the anti-Witcher 3, and whereas I don't really think much about the characters or the themes of Witcher 3, it's mostly the setting. Despite the characters and themes being good, it's the complete opposite with Nier Automata. Despite the setting being fantastic, and I really like exploring it, and despite the experience being amazing, what I take away from it is the messages, and the way they're so beautifully executed, and how they've sort of formed me as a person. Number 14 is Bloodborne. Quite simply, the best lore I've ever seen in a game. I have lost sleep poring over this game, putting together item descriptions and the sort of scattershot nature of how it's presented, and understanding these characters and how this world fell into this disrepair, and just engrossing myself in the beautiful gothic horror, the Victorian streets, the architecture of Yharnam, and how it then descends into this hellish chaos of cosmic horror, and these gods, these Cthulhu-esque creatures, and how that flows together. The creatures, and the Pale Blood Hunt, that is one of my favorite YouTube videos ever, and how once I learned what this story was about and put it all together, I would just replay it, and then be able to apply it to certain locations, like, this is where this horror occurred, this is where this character walked these streets and turned into this. Oh, this boss was this character who did this. And making all the connections and putting together the history, it's one of the most fun things I've ever done. And it's tons of fun to play. And I don't really mind that it's 30 FPS, really. Though, it would definitely be better if it was 60. For me. Next up is number 13, Paper Mario. This is, while I say the bulk of this placing is nostalgic, is due to nostalgia, and let me back up. The reason this is such a formative game for me, it is maybe the most formative piece of media I've ever experienced, is because this is one of my first games. It wasn't my first game, but it was one of my first games, and it's the first time, as a child, age 8 or 9, that I really, while playing this, started to care about stories. It's where I first started immersing myself in a video game or a fictional world in Paper Mario. My parents got me this game. They thought, hey, it's Mario. AJ likes Mario. I like Mario 64. Here. I got it for my birthday or something. And I played it, and I was so taken aback because it's the first time I'd play it for a couple hours in an evening with my dad watching. With snow sort of falling outside. It's the first time where I really properly paid attention to a video game story, and where I properly immersed myself in the atmosphere of a video game, and the atmosphere of a setting. In this game, they have that thing that's famous in Trails games, where as you progress the story, NPCs everywhere, literally everywhere, update what they're saying. And I realized that was happening as I would progress the story, and I would talk to everyone. I'd know where they resided, I'd know all the villages, I would have my favorites, and I'd talk to them all, and they'd all have something witty and sharp and clever to say. And part of the draw of this was not to see where the story goes necessarily, but it for sure was, but it was also to see what these people around the Mushroom Kingdom, the world, would say about those events. The music is one of the greatest ever. This game, the culmination of everything, the visuals, the music, the characters, the setting. This is one of my favorite fictional worlds to be lost in. It's right up there. Is it as dense as The Witcher 3? No, but it's absolutely as well executed. This setting. I would include Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door with that as well. And it just has this atmosphere. In the more cosmic sections of the game, of Shooting Star Summit, of Star Haven, of Chapter 7, the snowy area, where it is just this spiritual experience, that this feeling of awe as this wonderful spiritual music plays. If you play this game, you know what I mean. That Chapter 7 music, that snowy music, the night music in Shooting Star Summit and in around Chapter 7 is so beautiful. It's captured me to this day, and it's probably the reason why I love snowy night sky locations in video games. Actually, my Twitch starting soon screen is, I commissioned it, and part of the inspiration for it, actually the entire inspiration for it, was Paper Mario Chapter 7. If I could just show you here. This is based off of Chapter 7 from Paper Mario. This is actually Shiver City and Starborn Valley. Just a bit of obviously, a unique take on it, with me in the foreground with my cup of tea. But that shows you how much this has changed me, this game. This was my fairy tale. People grew up with their parents teaching them bedtime stories or reading them bedtime stories. For me, that was playing Paper Mario with my parents, specifically my dad, as he watched me make my way through this adventure. And every night it would be like, what's Mario's adventure gonna be today? And it's the first time I really properly started caring about stories and settings and these worlds. So for that, it is maybe the most formative work I've ever experienced in my life. Right up there with Hunter x Hunter, Fate Zero as well, in terms of most formative, as well as Xenoblade, stuff like that. And it's maybe number one. If I had to say the most formative work, I'd probably say this, Paper Mario. Anyways, but having said that, this isn't a game that ages badly and it's all nostalgia. If you go back and play it, this is one of the most charming, lovable, endearing experiences. The presentation of a pop-up book, the fairy tale-like presentation, and the way that narrative is imbued in every element of it. It's just such a sharp, tight, rich, beautiful, fun, lovable experience. It is start to finish just a wonderful package. So even if you go back and play this today, I'm certain that this game is great. It is fantastic, even without nostalgia. And that's why it's so high up. It honestly pains me that it's not higher. And it could be higher. But number 12 is another game that has a lot to do with nostalgia. Animal Crossing. GameCube Animal Crossing. On this channel, actually, I put out a video that's why Animal Crossing GameCube is my favorite one. You can watch that if you're interested, but there's just a charm to this game that I think Wild World had it as well, but after Wild World, I think the series just lost it. And you could say that's nostalgia goggles. I really don't think so. I explained it in that video, but nonetheless, this game was my life for a good 2 years or so. My cousins would play it, would come over and we'd play it, and I'd go to my cousin's house and we'd play it in these wonderful summer weekends or even weekdays. We'd just play Animal Crossing and we go in 20-minute shifts. I'd play for 20 minutes, then when it was getting to the last few minutes, I'd collect shells and head home. My cousin would then play in his town for 20 minutes. 20 minutes was a really small shift, but nonetheless, we had so much fun. And as the sun would set outside, it would start setting in Animal Crossing as we'd play it for hours on end. And one of us would get a rare fish, and then we'd be like, oh man, now I need to try to get that fish in our turn. And we'd have competitions about it, but we'd support one another. And I have such beautiful, beautiful memories of just playing Animal Crossing, building my towns, paying off my mortgage, getting neighbors. The music, this is one of the best soundtracks ever. And it just transports me back to a time where, life was simpler and there was a magic associated with this game. But it also, like Paper Mario, is so well designed, so charming in a way that I think is lost in later entries. But yeah, this and Paper Mario being next to each other is very fitting because they're both very nostalgia-based. The duality of man, right? Bloodborne next to Paper Mario and Animal Crossing. And the next one, number 11, is carrying on the sort of Nintendo, early 2000s, late 90s Nintendo thing, kind of, with another entry that's kind of similar to these, that is kind of based off nostalgia, but is much more contemporary, I guess. Number 11 is Pokemon Platinum. This is definitely my favorite Pokemon game. There are some that I really, really love, like, for example, Emerald is very much up there, Oros as well, the Hoenn games. It's in the top 30. We also have Pokemon Soul Silver, and Heart Gold, and the Johto games, and Crystal, which is very much up there too. But to me, there is nothing like Pokemon Platinum and Sinnoh. I think that the beauty of Pokemon is that its story is told in very indirect ways using environmental storytelling, kind of in a strange way similar to Soulsborne games or Zelda games. And I have this whole video series, again, It's on the main channel, of 40-minute to an hour and a half long videos on the Pokemon regions. The Sinnoh one was my first one, and I'm quite proud of it. I think in that video, you can kind of see why I love this game so much. But the TLDR is that I do have a lot of nostalgia for it, specifically Diamond and Pearl. I played those games so much. But Platinum is the crystallization of what is beautiful about Pokemon storytelling, in a way that a lot of people might not see. I think Pokemon Platinum tells its story in a way that is very, very unique, and that I take a lot away from. And likewise, similar to Paper Mario, similar to something like Bloodborne or Witcher 3, the setting of this game is so much fun to explore. And yeah, if you want a full explanation, I'd direct you to my Sinnoh video. Just look up my Pokemon playlist on my main channel. But it's a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece. And I really don't think that Pokemon got its fair due with regards to storytelling when it was really good. These days, it's not really for me, but I think generations 2 to 4, the Johto, Hoenn, Sinnoh, and Unova games, they really, really did a good job. Unova a bit less so, but specifically generations 2 to 4, they did a fantastic job at telling a story in very simple but nuanced ways. Getting into the top 10 now, and just so you know, guys, there's so little between these. Is Animal Crossing better than Paper Mario? No. Like, I think when you get to favorites, specifically your top 25 or top 30, it's really about just feeling. I wouldn't try to convince you that Paper Mario is a better game than Bloodborne. I wouldn't. I probably don't think it is. But, you know, how boring is it to try to be objective, right? Feelings, subjectivity, experiences, the time you play these games in your lives, that's going to factor in. And the different things you value about storytelling and how that applies to you, how you connect with it, that's the beauty of subjectivity, right? And sharing these sorts of lists. So, but now into the top 10. Number 10 is Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger. This is basically anyone who plays video games is going to at least respect Chrono Trigger. It's one of the most universally lauded, celebrated games, one of the most revolutionary games ever. It's a legend. I have nothing to say about it that hasn't been said already. I've made a couple videos on it, I think. But man, it's probably the third JRPG I ever played. And after Pokemon, Paper Mario, stuff like that, when I properly started getting into JRPGs, and man, it set a high bar that was hardly ever surpassed. It's top 10, right? There's just this, it's just kind of mechanically pretty perfect, and it's got everything about it is stunningly done. Everything about it is great. There isn't an element of it that I find fault with. The cast is fantastic and very rich. The setting is so immersive and deceptively rich as well. The plot is structured incredibly well. The gameplay is tons of fun. And there are moments in this game that sort of transcend everything, that you just kind of stop and stare at. The reveal of Zeal is one of those for me. I've done a video about that too. And just as a full top-to-bottom experience, it is a legend. It feels, to me, well, it's one of those games where you play it and you kind of feel privileged, you know? You feel a little privileged to be able to play it, you know? It is one of the best examples of video games as an art form. And I love it. I love it so, so much. Number 9 is, if you could make a game in a lab for me, Twilight Princess, it would probably be it, along with a couple more that I might, a couple we talked about already, a couple I'll talk about soon, but The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess is a masterpiece. It is not a masterpiece in the way that everyone wants, like in a way that appeals to everyone. I get that. But man, the quiet beauty of it, the tone, the atmosphere, the setting which I could lose myself in, the people, the hustle and bustle of Castletown, the way that this game comments upon itself and its place in the Zelda series metatextually, thematically, through the use of Twilight as a narrative thematic focus, and how it uses that in-between liminal idea for its spot in the story, how it works as sort of a conclusion to the Hero of Time saga, or the whatever Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask are. I plan to release a video very soon in the next few weeks about the Hero of Time and the tragedy of the Hero of Time, and Twilight Princess is an essential part of that. It has two of my favorite characters in the entire series in Midna and Zant, probably my two favorites. A wonderful Link, a great dynamic between Link and Midna. Ganondorf is fantastic thematically in this game, and it's just full of charm and whimsy and beauty, but it's also a tragedy. And it's also this very evocative, quiet, poetic piece with subtext everywhere. This is actually my first Zelda. I think outside A Link to the Past. And I got it in the winter of 2006, and this is another one where I have a lot of nostalgia for it. As I'd play it, my dad watching nearly 20 years ago, with snow just falling outside, vacation from school, and immersing myself in this adventure was something that I'll always cherish. It is absolutely a top 10 game, and I wish I could put it higher as well. I feel like it's not one that a lot of people would have in their top 5s, but it is absolutely so close to it for me. As of the last list, it was number 9. I made a video about this one too, as well. It's actually one of the videos I'm most proud of. I think I did a pretty good job. But anyways, continuing our way through the top 10 is number 8, Yakuza 0. It is the ultimate video game story, the ultimate character piece. I think it is in the conversation for the best cast I've ever seen in a video game. And it is my second favorite Yakuza game. It is pretty much perfect. It is full of rich characters. Oda, Tachibana, Makoto, Majima. Majima's arc in this game is maybe, honestly, probably the best character arc in a video game. In a single video game. I think Kiryu's outclasses him throughout the entire series, but for a single video game, Majima's arc here is unbelievably done. His dynamic with Sagawa, Kuze and Kiryu, Nishiki and Kiryu and their dynamic. Nishiki's amazing here. Kiryu's fantastic. The way these characters are formed by the experiences they've had with other characters. Nishitani and Majima and how that shaped his life. Sagawa Majima, Kuze, Kiryu, Nishiki, Kiryu, the different lieutenants and their aura, even someone like Lee or Billiken. All these characters, they all have a specific role. The atmosphere is so gritty and rich and grungy, and the setting is the best it's ever been in Yakuza 0. In terms of exploring Kamurocho and Sotenbori, the atmosphere is so rich and thick in a way that was never emulated again in the series. And the story is just, it doesn't put a foot wrong. Maybe a tiny bit of pacing issues around chapter 5 or so, but really that's nitpicking. To me, this is pretty much the perfect video game story. And the only reason it's not like number 1, while it is definitely in the conversation for being right at the absolute top, is just because maybe there's something unique in another game above it that I connect with a bit more, that I feel is a bit more creative, I guess, or that appeals to my sensibilities a bit more. But this game is top to bottom fun to play, amazing setting, amazing music, cutscene direction, visual storytelling through body language and expressions. I don't think was ever better. Maybe not. I don't know. It set the standard. Let's just put it this way. It is masterful in every way. It is pretty much a perfect game, and it excels in every way. All the characters are so rich and deep and varied. They all have a distinct role, and the story top to bottom is just so well done. Incredible game. And only bettered in its series by a game that I think is much more flawed, but just about hits the heights and connects with me emotionally and is a bit more abstract in its presentation, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. I am, again, if you want a big explanation about why this game is a masterpiece, I would direct you to my streams on it, and or for a more summarized version, my Yakuza video on the series where I talk about this game to a great degree. But the TLDR is that it's the crystallization and payoff of everything I love about the series, about Ichiban, about Kiryu, about connections and Kiryu's life and legacy, and the pains and sorrows of legacy, and how that's communicated in such a celebratory way, and what life means, and why Ichiban is an aberration, an outlier, this bizarre miracle of a person. Same with Kiryu, but in a totally different way, and how the series reflects upon itself and its own legacy as it goes forward. This is a symbolic, poetic, metaphorical masterpiece. And honestly, I think most of the complaints I've seen about it, I don't think they hold water, really. Does it have problems? Yeah. Is Bryce a great character? No. Is it really goofy in places? Are there some problems with it? Yeah, I do think so. But it is so rich. There is so much there to take apart in every chapter, every scene. It is beautiful visually. The gameplay, the evolution of gameplay from Like a Dragon into Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth is one of the most incredible, impressive evolutions of a game system in a sequel that I've ever seen. This game is so much fun to play, and the way that connections are imbued everywhere. I don't even know. I don't even know how to sum up my experience with this game, but man, it was special. I never wanted it to end, and I'm sad it did. And now I just need another big RGG game. I know the pirate game is out there. I just want a big mainline release. I'm craving it now. Enough time's passed for me to be impatient for it, but I will wait, and I have full confidence in it. Wow, what a masterpiece, this game. Definitely more flawed than Yakuza 0, but to me, I connect a bit more with it. I think it hits highs a bit more, and I think it's a little bit more interesting if you to think about. And I think the way it reflects upon itself and how that's baked into its design, a lot of similar themes to Like a Dragon, but just kind of dialed up again. And the things it does with Ichiban, with Eiji, Ebina, Yamai, man, Chitose, just fantastic characters everywhere. Don't get me started on the Dragon Memoirs. Anyway, number 6 is one of the games that people associate with me the most, Xenoblade Chronicles. This is another one similar to The Witcher 3, where what I take away from it is the experience. I do connect with the characters to a great degree. I think the characters are fantastic, but there are places where you're like, this sort of character thread kind of gets dropped a little bit. Or maybe could be a little bit of richness or a bit more dynamics there. Like, I do think the character work in this game can be a little lacking in places, maybe, at least compared to the best of the best. I think it's great. I think it is, compared to like something like Yakuza 0, or something like Infinite Wealth, or a couple of the other entries above it, I think it could be lacking in a bit of dynamics. But the dynamics that are there, that are dwelt upon, Egil Shulk, Alvis, and, well, a bunch of characters in general, Melia in general as a character, Dunban, Ryan, and his arc is really fantastic. Ricky's incredibly underrated. So TLDR is the cast is amazing. Though they aren't right up there in terms of my favorite video game casts, so some of the reason why I put this up here is essentially because of the experience. This is a journey. This is an adventure from the Bionis leg, the bottom of the Bionis leg to the tip of the Mechonis, and in one of the most incredible video game settings you can ever experience. And it is just this world-spanning adventure where you think the plot is one thing, and then it builds upon it and recontextualizes it. And Shulk, one of my favorite video game main characters, is always dynamic and always thinking about things in a different way along the way. And his mind's always changing. And, oh man, it's just, it grows and grows, and until Clair Obscur Expedition 33, this was the game I enjoyed watching people play blind the most, just because of the way the story expands upon itself. And the locations, oh my gosh, they're to die for. Aerith Sea, Machna Forest, Frontier Village, Valak Mountain, the Mechonis Field, Satoru Marsh is what I was thinking of that I was forgetting the name of. And the beauty of the Fallen Arm, very Kingdom Hearts-esque. Just the journey through these locales. It's something I'll never forget, and every time I go back and play it, it is just as fun as the first time. I love this game to death. I love seeing people get into it. I love seeing blind reactions to it, and people just fall in love with the characters and story and the worlds. And it's another one, kind of similar to The Witcher 3, where I see what they're saying with regards to the themes. Does it really connect with me through the themes? No. Not really, but that doesn't really matter, because what I take away from it is the experience and the journey and the adventure, and that is so meaningful to me. I love Xenoblade Chronicles, and I think 2 is a good game too, and I think 3 is a favorite as well. It's on this list if you saw it, but this game has always kind of scratched that itch perfectly for me. And I know some don't really like the battle system in this game. I think it's perfect. It's one of my favorite games ever to play, and I really love it. Yeah, I think it's the perfect balance of everything for me. Anyways, into the top 5. Number 5 is Cyberpunk 2077, specifically the Ultimate Edition, which includes the best DLC I've ever played, Phantom Liberty. Now, this game, I've talked about stories where, like Xenoblade, like Witcher 3, where you play it for the experience and the immersion and the atmosphere and the setting. But I don't really care too much about the themes as much. Cyberpunk 2077, like that, in terms of Night City, its setting, is the best. If I had to pick one video game setting that is my favorite ever, you know, Final Fantasy X's up there, Final Fantasy XIV, Yakuza 0, Witcher 3, Xenoblade, Bioshock, Hyrule in Zelda, Paper Mario, stuff like that would be right up there. But if I had to pick one, it would be Cyberpunk setting. It is that special to me, it is that important, and it is that beautifully integrated with the themes of the story, the characters. It is living and breathing, the textures of it, the visuals of it. It is this artistic, poetic, beautiful, powerful mosaic of life and death and what it means to live, and all these themes that are just etched and built into the streets, every alleyway, every piece of advertising. And as much as this is this warning, this cautionary tale of these dystopic ideas, nonetheless, I loved living here. I loved it. I would wake up as my V and look outside and just take in the bright lights and the city lights at nighttime, the bustling streets at daytime, walking by people, seeing people reflect on their lives and what they've lost and what they have to gain and their dreams, all that the city promises, all that it leaves behind. And I love it. I love it. It's the best setting in games. And I only recently played it last year, a year and a half ago. So this is an incredibly strong showing for a game that I've just recently played in the last couple of years. It is a top 5. I finished it and I'm like, maybe it's about as good as The Witcher 3. I don't really know. Witcher 3 or Cyberpunk? And then slowly, I've realized, yeah, it is the best of the best. I had some technical problems here and there, and its release was obviously, awful. But the final product that we got, version 2.0 with Phantom Liberty, the characters, oh my god, this is one of the best casts ever. Johnny Silverhand, Solomon Reed, Songbird, I love Takamura, Jackie. I just lose myself in the streets of Night City, and I've gotten a new PC recently. I can't wait to do it with... I had a decent PC before, and I didn't stream it, so it wasn't resource intensive, so I could play it at a pretty good quality, but I want to dial that up to Ultra and really take it all in on a replay. Cyberpunk, it's just so special. It's so special. I have a video on Cyberpunk as well. And Edgerunners as well. I consider them to be part of the same story. Into the top 5, though, to top 4 is something I've loved for 11 years? Final Fantasy IX, my favorite for a while, for years and years and years. I've spent more years since I became a JRPG fan in a video game, and a fan of Final Fantasy, saying that 9 is the best Final Fantasy entry than otherwise. It is not quite the best Final Fantasy entry for me anyway, at this moment. On a given day, it could be, but it's a bit below something else, which we'll talk about soon. But nonetheless, Final Fantasy IX is my heart and soul. It is one of my favorite video game casts ever, one of my favorite characters ever in Vivi, and one of my favorite protagonists ever in Zidane. Fantastic antagonist in Kuja, and it's a thematic piece, wherein it is kind of a mosaic where all the themes are built into the character journeys about life and identity and one's purpose, and what it means to define one's place in the world, what it means to make one's life worthwhile. The music is in the conversation for my favorite in the series. I do think the combat is kind of its weakest aspect. I think it has some problems with combat, but it isn't anything that makes me, not adore it beyond words. It's in my top 5 for it's incredible. It is incredible. And it's got one of the best conclusions to any game I've ever played. It's got one of the best introductions. I love how theatrical it is. I love how it wears its heart on its sleeve. There is something... I just have no problems with this narrative, and it hits such beautiful emotional highs so often. I find myself tearing up to this a crazy amount of times, considering, like, I've been watching replays, people play through it, and I was shocked at how much these little moments of, quiet solitude really spoke to me. And what they meant for Vivi and Zidane and Garnet and Steiner. It's so special. It's such a special game, and yeah, it's had my heart and soul for years and years and years, and will continue to. It's my number 4. But getting into the top 3 is a relatively new entry, a game I've made a 9-hour video about. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Yeah, I'm shocked that this is as good as it is, and honestly, this is something where I've made a 9-hour video on it, like I said. If you want my thoughts on it, I've poured my heart and soul into that video. If I had to say I'm proud of one video more than any others, it's that one. That is my soul in a video. And that is the case with a lot of my projects, but to an even greater extent than anything else. 9 hours, man. That was my life for 8-9 months straight, that video, because I just felt such a love for this game. Passion for this game was pouring out of me, that I put my everything into it, and I'm still kind of recovering from that months and months later. But the fact that I felt that I could make that, something of that scope, and dedicate my life to it, in a way that, to this day, I'm kind of suffering a little bit financially from that decision. But I wouldn't regret it. I don't regret it for a second. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is one of the most special experiences I've ever had, and it's masterful in every way. And not only is it masterful in the way that Yakuza 0 is masterful in its character design, not only does it have a setting that rivals the very best, character work that rivals the best casts ever, one of my favorite soundtracks ever, but it comes together in a package that pays homage to the original series and doesn't disrespect it in any way, and yet is so creative and so bold and courageous and such a love letter to itself, to Final Fantasy in general, but Final Fantasy VII, and what we love about these stories, what it does for Aerith and Cloud and Tifa and Barret, the visual storytelling, the way that these towns come together. I said Cyberpunk is my favorite setting overall, but in terms of towns, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is one of my favorite games ever in terms of its setting, along with Remake and Midgar, but in terms of towns, this might take the cake. It is just everything to me, this game. I can't believe it exists. To me, it's a miracle, in the way that once-in-a-lifetime games like Clair Obscur are, or Cyberpunk, or the Yakuza series in general. Yeah, I can't believe this game exists, and I wouldn't be, like, when you're number 3, you're pretty damn close to number 1, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if Part 3 and the series as a whole becomes my favorite game of all time. All told, all together. It's just unbelievable, and I can't stress that enough. 9 hours, that video. Check it out if you haven't already and you're interested. I poured my everything into it. Next up is my number 2, which isn't actually, well, it depends on who you ask, but the visual novel, Umineko no Naku Koro ni, well, Chiru here, but Umineko, the visual novel. I don't really have a ton to say about this, because for everyone who's played it, you know already, and for anyone who hasn't, the less that is said, the better. But this is one of my favorite examples of thematic integration with a story. The way it tells its story, the way it approaches its theming, the way its characters are written. This is in the conversation for the best cast in anything I've ever experienced. Up there with the character cast of Hunter x Hunter, Haikyuu, the Yakuza series in general, the whole game series. It is right up there with the best of them. It is incredible. And it's full of moments throughout all of its episodes where I've just sat in silence, just overwhelmed by what it's given me. Overwhelmed by emotion, and overwhelmed by that something like this can exist in the way that it does. Yeah, it's It's one of the most special things I've ever experienced, and it's one of those works that make you grateful to be, as dramatic as it sounds, to be alive to witness it for what it provides you with. Does it have problems? Yeah, for sure. I think it's full of problems. It's definitely full of flaws. Pacing problems, some issues with some dialogue here and there. Yeah, I think there's lots of flaws with Umineko, but it is this unbridled expression of love and passion and heart, and it's everything to me. But my number one story of all time, the game I streamed large sections of that had me gasping for breath because of my tears, the most emotional thing, and another story in the conversation for the best cast in anything I've ever seen, Final Fantasy XIV. It says Endwalker right here, but this is Final Fantasy XIV in general. This is not including Dawntrail. This is up to the end of Endwalker. I'm currently playing through Dawntrail for the first time. We'll see if I end up including it. But Endwalker. Shadowbringers and Endwalker specifically, but the whole story. This is a masterclass in character writing, thematic integration, setting design, recontextualization, incredible, just some of the most incredible characters I've ever seen, and how they're built up, and how they're subverted, and some of the most complex psychologies that you just spend hours at night digging into. Man, one of the best soundtracks ever, just an unrivaled experience in video game storytelling, and again, it's one of those stories about stories, a celebration of heroes in stories, of Final Fantasy in general, of JRPGs in general, a game that knows that its cast is unbelievable and masterful, and just really wrings as much as it can out of them, as much emotion, as much quality. Yeah, I have a Final Fantasy ranking video where I gush about this at greater length, but this is my everything, Final Fantasy XIV. And if I had to, at least as of 2 months ago, pick a favorite game of all time, this is it. This is it. Like I said, this list is outdated. I'm not going to say much, but this top 10 definitely looks a little different. There are some that have gone up, some that have gone down a little bit. I know, it's really recent. It's only been a couple months. But just a couple of little minor changes, especially when everything's so close together, things are subject to change. There are some additions, like I said. I think Clair Obscur is going to be on this list. I think Deltarune could. I really hope it could. I have a greater appreciation for certain games, and will continue to in the next little while. Red Dead Redemption 2 could end up here. I do want to stream a playthrough. I don't think I've told many people about this, but I would kind of like to stream Kingdom Hearts, which is a game series that I never really connected with, but I've forgotten everything about it, so I'd like to do a kind of pseudo run through it again. If people want to do that, I don't know. There's lots of plans for the future. But this is, as of early May 2025, my favorite video games of all time. I won't be doing a video like this every year, I don't think, but this is kind of just where I'm at now, where I was 2 months ago, and just kind of, if you're interested in seeing how this evolves, maybe you'd want to join in on the top 100 streams in 2026 and see how things change. But either way, I hope you've enjoyed this. I'm really glad I've been able to share this with you. I really enjoyed talking about this, and yeah, many thanks for watching. Thank you so much.